Hey everyone, back for another episode of Sports Podcast. Doing a special one that's completely unrelated to pro and college sports. Since it's February, it's a pretty popular time in New Jersey high school athletics, wrestling with the state finals and individual tournaments is starting up. So it's a pretty big time, and given how there's a lot of competitiveness and whatnot, and I'm doing this whole YouTube video thing now, I figured I'd give my predictions on who's going to win overall in each section and ultimately in groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each section, all 24 of them, I believe there are now. Yeah, 24 sections. Tell you who I think is going to win, and then from there, I'll tell you who I think is going to win the group overall down in Toms River. So bear with me. You might have to rewind again to hear who I have winning each section because there's 24 of them. But we'll see how many I get right, because I'm feeling a little hot right now, because I predicted Bergen Catholic would beat Paulsboro today 42-15, and the final was 41-15. I actually would have gotten the 42 if the one Ferrari brother, or either one of the Ferrari brothers, didn't get docked a team point for misconduct, unsportsmanlike, at the end of their bouts. So riding a little hot streak, so let's see how I do with this. So starting with the smallest one overall, North 1, Group 1, I got Emerson Park Ridge winning over Kittatinny. Emerson Park Ridge has some depth and experience. Kittatinny does too, but as we found out when we wrestled Kittatinny, they're pretty weak, and everyone else in that section is pretty weak, in my opinion as well. Moving down to North 2, Group 1, it's another really weak section. I'm actually going to go with Roselle Park, who's a 3 seed, to win it over Del Val. I just don't think Del Val would be able. I think Del Val could keep it close, but I'm not sure that they'd be able to win it in the end. Again, it's just my predictions. I haven't followed every team completely in depth this year. If there's other, Warren County or Harnett County teams that make it, bravo. I'll root for you when it's on. But these are just my predictions that I'm giving right off the bat. So again, North 2, Group 1, I got Roselle Park over Del Val. Central Jersey, Group 1, I think this one's pretty easy to pick. I have Shore over Point Pleasant Beach. Reason being, Shore has the best record, and they were ranked in the top 20 a couple points this year, and no one else from that section was. So that's a pretty gimme. South Group 1, this one's a slam dunk. It's Paulsboro. They're going to win that. It's not even close. I mean, if they're able to get 15 points on a team like Bergen Catholic, just imagine who they'd be able to do. They won 68 straight dual meets, too, against, it's not like they wrestle slouches. They wrestle some pretty good competition. So, to recap from Group 1, I got Emerson Park Ridge, Roselle Park, Shore, and Paulsboro. Now, when they would go to Toms River, I have Paulsboro winning the entire thing, and based on those 4 teams, if my math is correct, Paulsboro would probably wrestle Shore in the championship, and at that point, I would have Shore taking second place with Paulsboro winning it. I think it would honestly be an upset if anyone other than Paulsboro came out of Group 1 this year. Moving along to Group 2, it's a little bit more competitive. I think the teams getting to Toms River is almost slam dunk as well. There will be a little more competition in some of the sections, but not all of them. In North 1, Group 2, I have High Point beating Newton, so all Sussex County schools. High Point's really good this year. They almost beat Phillipsburg. Newton is also a decent team, but I just don't think they have enough depth that High Point does, and High Point's really good. North 2, Group 2, I have Hanover Park over Bernards. Hanover Park, even without state champ and nationally ranked Nick Ramo, is still a team that can hang with a lot of opponents. Take the Phillipsburg match, for example. Nick Ramo did not wrestle, and we only beat them by 6. And we pinned the kid at 132 that filled in for Ramo. So if Ramo's in, we easily lose that match, and we would have had a third loss on the year. Sorry, had a text message. In Central Jersey, Group 2, I think it's also a pretty slam dunk, so to speak, of who's going to make it. There are 2 well-known teams. Unfortunately, South Plainfield is in Group 2 this year as opposed to being in Group 3 in previous years. So that's unfortunately a downfall for Raritan, who is going to come up short against South Plainfield in Central Group 2 Championship. And then in South Jersey Group 2, I had to do a little research on this one because I'm not familiar with the schools. But I guess West Deptford, hope I pronounced that right, over Haddonfield in the the South Group 2 Championship. So the 4 teams again I have are High Point, Hanover Park, South Plainfield, and West Deptford. Moving along into the Toms River matchups, I would have South Plainfield winning the entire thing, even though they don't have the most power points of all those teams. That distinction belongs to High Point. So you would actually see Hanover Park, wrestle South Plainfield in the one semifinal. I think South Plainfield beats them pretty easily, and then goes on and beats High Point in the championship. South Plainfield is, once again, loaded back up. Moving along to Group 3, I got in North 1 Group 3, again, had to do a little research, but I got Montville over Old Tappan. Montville, in similar opponents, has done much better than Old Tappan has in this section, so I'm going with Montville over Old Tappan. North 2 Group 3, that one could be one of the more intriguing and competitive sections in the state team tournament. I got West Morris beating Mendham. Now, for a little fact check, Mendham beat West Morris at Mendham by 1 point when they met during the regular season. So I feel that it could go either way. There were a couple bouts that went in Mendham's favor by like a point, or, they scored late. I did some research. So I think West Morris corrects those mistakes and comes out on top against Mendham. In Central Group 3, again, it's not the most popular one. I had to do a little research for this one as well. And I'm going to go with Ocean Township over Hopewell Valley. Now, if you're reading this or listening to this video, I should say, you're probably saying, well, how can Ocean be any good? They just lost, as I'm getting those text messages now, to Phillipsburg by a lot. They lost by like 50 points. But you got to remember, it's Group 3. The teams that they're competing against aren't anywhere near the teams of like a Phillipsburg or North Hunterdon or a High Point or a South Plainfield or a Howell or Southern. Those aren't the teams they're trying to compete with. So I think in the end that Ocean is just going to be able to get over Hopewell Valley. And Ocean's the number 1 seed, so they have home gym advantage, if you want to call it that. Moving along to South Group 3. Again, I had to do a little bit of research to figure out some common opponents and teams because, again, I'm not too familiar with all the teams. But I'm going with Lacey over Gateway. And I looked up the opponents, and Lacey beat some of the other teams that are in that section of theirs pretty handily during the regular season. And they only have, I think, 1 loss on the year, so I think they're an easy favorite to win South Group 3 sectional. So to recap, I have Montville, West Morris, Ocean, and Lacey in Group 3 win the sections. And then based on the power points of those teams, again, Lacey doesn't have the most power points. That currently belongs to West Morris. But I'm going to go with Lacey to beat West Morris. I just think that they have a better lineup potentially top to bottom if they're going to do that well against. And Lacey doesn't face, teams that aren't, known around the state. They wrestled Gateway. They wrestled some northern teams this year. So and they held competitive with a couple of parochials down south. So I think they'll be all right. And I think they'll win a competitive Group 3. Moving along to Group 4, which is Phillipsburg's group. I'll get to them in one sec. But in the North 1 Group 4, I got Roxbury winning over Mount Olive. That one's honestly a toss-up and completely, chance. Who knows what will happen. But just based on common opponents, Roxbury, it would seem like, has a little bit of an edge over the other teams in that section. So I'm going to go with Roxbury. And they're the number 1 seed. So obviously home gym arena helps as well. North 2, Group 4, I'm going to Phillipsburg over North Herndon. That was the most competitive match that North Herndon probably had to wrestle all year. They gave us all we could ask for. It came down to the final bout. And given we won it really late in the bout with Parenti, I think, being at home will help us out a little more. I think it'll still be close. I don't think it'll be 6 points, though. I think we win by maybe 9 or 10 points, but it'll be another close bout. But just like in football or basketball, it's not easy to beat the same team twice, but I think we're more than capable of doing that, especially at home. Only one loss in 3 years there, so. Oh, excuse me. I got Phillipsburg winning over North Herndon. In Central Group 4, I have Jackson Memorial over Brick Memorial. That's a pretty competitive rivalry. I'm not sure Colts Neck can really compete with them at all. They may be able to, because the shore teams down there in the shore conference are all very competitive, and they all like to beat each other up. It's kind of like the Pac-12 in football, so to speak. Everyone just beats up on each other. That's why it's really hard to find a team that separates themselves above the rest. Now, given there are like 1 or 2 teams that separate themselves above the rest, but they're up in Group 5, which I'll mention in a little bit. But again, so I got Jackson Memorial over Brick Memorial. Jackson's a pretty good team. They beat some other pretty good teams this year. They beat Southern, who beat us. So that's just an indication of how good Jackson is. Down in South Group 4, that's not a really strong section, but I'm going with Kingsway. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going with Kingsway. Because they beat Clearview, who's the number 2 seed, by about 30 points earlier in the regular season. So if it was a little bit closer, I might flip the other way, but you lose to a team by 30 points. I think that says, where you are in terms of talent and depth and overall matchups advantage. So I got Kingsway in South Group 4. So to recap for Group 4, I have Roxbury, Phillipsburg, Jackson Memorial, and Kingsway. And if it came down to it, we have the most power points. And I think ultimately we would probably end up beating either Jackson Memorial or Roxbury, if my math's correct, in the championship. I think we would. This isn't the strongest team we've had in recent years, but it's a good one, and they've shown resiliency and depth. And they've come through in big moments when they needed to in a lot of close matches this year, like with Hanover Park, North Herndon, High Point, etc. We took Herndon Central to the limit, who is a very, very good team. So I think we pull through again and get our 6th straight state championship. Moving along to Group 5, which could feature the most competitive championship bout, potentially, if the cards play out right. But before I get to that, I'll tell you who I think I have winning the sections. So in North 1, Group 5, I have Passaic Tech over Clifton, just based on common opponents. I was leaning towards maybe taking North Bergen, who's actually the 4 seed. But when you start comparing the matchups and common opponents, North Bergen and Clifton really haven't been able to do what Passaic Tech has been able to do. And Passaic Tech is having probably their best season in a long time right now. So I'm going with them to win North 1 Group 5. North 2 Group 5, honestly, if Phillipsburg was in this one, we'd win it even easier than we'd win North 2 Group 4, because I think that's how weak it is. Now, given Watchung Hills did just beat DePaul today, for those of you that don't know, I think the final was 36-33, maybe 26-23. So I know it was by 3 points, but I'm going with Watchung Hills over Westfield. And I'm just going 1-2 Rock Chalk because I can't see how that section is really that competitive. You don't have the teams like North Herndon in there, or Phillipsburg, or Herndon Central, or anyone like that. That section has some good football teams, but not really good wrestling programs. But I'm going to go with Watchung Hills, Rock Chalk on that. Moving along to Central Group 5, this one's almost a slam dunk as well, like how I said the South Plainfield and High Point ones were. I got Herndon Central over Monroe. I think Monroe, who's a 3 seed, makes it to the final, but Herndon Central's just too good from top to bottom for Monroe to be able to compete with them. And Herndon Central fans are probably happy because Hal is now out of Central Group 5. They're in South Group 5, which I'll mention in a few seconds. So I think they have a clear-cut path to get to Toms River. And then South Group 5, that one could feature the most competitive sectional final because I'm going to have Hal beating Southern. Now, Hal doesn't even have the most power points. They have the 2 seed, actually. Southern has the most. But Hal's riding like a 72-match win streak. They haven't lost in a long time. They have tons of seniors. Southern's a good team and deserves to be where they are. They manhandled Phillipsburg. When we went down there. But I think Hal is just on a completely different level than Southern is. They're ranked 3rd in the state for a reason, and they'll be there by the end of the year as well. So, recap, I got Passaic Tech, Watchung Hills, Herndon Central, and Hal winning from Group 5. The winner of Group 5 then, I'm going to take Hal. Herndon Central would probably get the luck of the draw and get to wrestle someone like Passaic Tech or Watchung Hills in the first round, and Hal would get the other. So you're probably looking at a Hal-Herndon Central matchup, and I'm going to go with Hal to beat Herndon Central. That would probably be the most competitive of the sectional final, or group finals, because I don't think anyone's going to be able to compete with Paulsboro. High Point might be able to win 5 bouts against South Plainfield, but I think South Plainfield is just too good for them. Lacey, Group 3 is really not that competitive. West Morris might be able to, or Mendham, whoever comes out of there. Again, I took West Morris, but we'll see. West Morris or Lacey, I think. Phillipsburg, Jackson Memorial, or Roxbury could easily wrestle. It's pretty darn tough. They have in recent years when we meet down there, but I'm going to go Phillipsburg just because it's my alma mater, and I've seen them wrestle this year, and I think they'll come through when it matters most, especially the seniors on the team. And then Group 5, I have Hal over Herndon Central. Now, that's all the public ones. I'll give you the non-publics real quick. Not really going to be that competitive. In non-public North A, I got Bergen Catholic over St. Peter's. Let's be honest. No one's going to be able to compete with Bergen Catholic. Some people thought Paulsboro might be able to keep close to them, and they didn't. So, yeah, it's Bergen Catholic. I got nothing. Bergen Catholic's going to win that. Even without the 2 Ferrari brothers who transferred there from Blair in the middle of the season. They aren't eligible to wrestle, but Bergen still has enough kids to make up for that and win when it matters. In the non-public South A, I got St. Augustine over St. John Vianney. It's not a strong section for the non-publics. St. Augustine is probably the second best team in South Jersey among the non-publics. The other one is Camden Catholic, who's in non-public B due to school size. So St. Augustine gets there from non-public South A, but they're going to lose to Bergen Catholic in the championship anyway. So Bergen Catholic's winning non-public A. In non-public B, that one could be a little more competitive. I got Pope John over DePaul in the non-public North B. There's only 4 teams in there, so I mean, it's pretty safe to say, if you take Pope John, they're probably the most sure thing to win of all the teams, even more than Paulsboro, because there's way less teams in it that have to compete with them, and DePaul is not what they used to be. They haven't had too many good wrestlers in recent, like last year or 2. And then for non-public South B, again, there's like 5 teams in it. The Bs really don't have a lot of teams in them in private schools for wrestling. I'm going to go with Camden Catholic. They're ranked in the state, and the other 3-4 teams all have losing records. So, what does that tell you? I'm going to go then with the non-publics. I'm going to go with Pope John to beat Camden Catholic just because I think Pope John is more solid throughout their lineup, and their lower weights would be able to pile up enough bonus points to give them the edge. So to recap, I got Paulsboro winning Group 1. I got South Plainfield winning Group 2. I have Lacey winning Group 3. Phillipsburg winning Group 4. Howe winning Group 5. Bergen winning non-public A. And Pope John winning non-public B. Let's see how many I get right. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, however you choose to listen to these videos. And be sure to stay up to date and follow me on social media for more as I post more about sports. I'll have some more guests on soon. And let's see how many of these I end up getting right. Talk to you later.